Welcome to episode 68 of Beer with Strangers. I'm your host. Sorry for the squeaking noise. I'm your host, Tony Russo, and I'm joined this week, as I'm joined each week, by my co-host, Doug Griffith.
Good. Well, let's see. I was going to say good morning, but it's good afternoon, Tony.
Yes, I'm late today. We're getting started about half an hour later than usual. That's my fault.
And the weather report today, it's cloudy, but mostly sunny with some clouds, I guess is the way to put it. And temperature-wise, not too bad. It's a very pleasant day, I think, to be out today. It's been a couple of nice days this week.
Yeah, well, it rained. When did it rain? Was that last night that it rained like the end of the world? The day
Night before last.
Oh, it's brutal.
Yeah.
All sorts of fun stuff to talk about this week. And as usual, I'm back from New Jersey with a list of things that I didn't bring you.
No beer?
No beer, but I got it this time. I found it. I bought it. It's in the cooler at my mother's house. So
sounds so good.
We're that much closer to bringing it home. I got some Carton Boat beer, but I also got the Trooper, which is an English beer from England that's named after the Iron Maiden song. And it's hard-ish to get your hands on. So I've been hoping to have it for a while, and it's okay. I mean, it's not. I mean, I didn't think it was going to be fantastic, and it wasn't fantastic. But it was good. It's solid, just an ale. It's
just
a
nice good English ale.
4.7% ale. You can drink a bunch of them. I think people, because when I looked online, people I think had higher expectations than I did, but I didn't have high expectations, and it met my not high expectations. So I can recommend that highly. And there's also I also had, I took a picture of it. I should have showed it to you before we got it. I also had an actual Belgian ale from actual Belgium that my sister-in-law got her hands on, and it was really good. It was a saison, but it was bitter, which isn't. Yeah, it was bitterer than I would expect. And I'm sorry, I want to just get the saison d'Eper Mer. This is it. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not. The brew de Glazen. So I don't know. It was pretty good though. Good. So that's what I want to ask you. Is it common or uncommon for them to have a little bit more bitterness than you'd expect from a saison?
I think it's like most breweries. They'll do what they want or do however they think it is appropriate. Brew their own taste. So, but generally, I've had most saisons are not well hopped.
Right, and well, this one was. Yeah. So, it just was kind of mind blowing to me that.
Or is it one of those things that they've made it for the American palate? And
maybe
hopped it more for.
Maybe I don't know
export here.
I don't know if it was brought here for us, or or I don't know if she got it from a friend who was just because they've all been. They run with the kind of people who travel. So I don't know. I don't know if they bought it here or if they bought it in Belgium. But anyway, it was quite good. If you want to look at my Untapped, it's my name backwards, OSSURYNOT. You can see what the name of it is and tell me how you liked it. But it was a fun beer excursion. I went a little kooky when I got to the. I like to drink a lot when I go to New Jersey. I like a lot. Like it's a little horrifying. And so I try to get, and I may have even told this story last time, I try to get one bunch of smaller beers so I can drink all day. And my go-to has always been the Dale's Pale Ale because you can drink, and I only drink them all day. But and we had a couple of those Troopers, and we also got to try the Big Barrel Stout finally. I cracked it open. Okay. I gave it to my daughter to try. Oh, that was so good. I don't know. Have you had that yet? From Third Wave Brewing, it's called a Big Barrel Stout. You can only get it in 750s, and I think you can only get it at the brewery.
I think I got one at home, just to not open it yet.
Yeah, save it for the winter. Yeah. My daughter wanted to try it, and we tried it, and it was really big and really smoky, and the coffee came through very well, but so did the bourbon. It was just a really well-balanced beer. It was enough of everything that... Like if I told you it tastes just like coffee, you would get all the coffee. And I say, no, it tastes just like bourbon. You'd get all like whatever you're thinking about. That's what it tastes like.
Notes come through.
It's like magic. Yeah, it was very, very good. So we all enjoyed that very much. And that was my beer weekend. I had a big beer weekend.
Sound like you enjoyed yourself.
Yeah, we always do when we're up there. And so before I went there, I went to a local brewery, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Do you know these guys at all? These guys from there, it's called Dewey Beer Company.
No,
it's
not been down yet.
It's in Dewey Beach. Yeah. He said he knows you, but you don't know him.
Yeah. I may recognize it, but that's not much of a face to see.
Yeah, no. His name is Michael Riley, and he's the brewer there.
Okay.
And he lives up that way, so he would go to Millsboro, but then he would go to Lewis. Once Lewis opened, then that was kind of his spot. But he's been brewing several years. He's not gone to school or anything, and the beer was perfectly acceptable.
Oh, good.
Always
glad to hear that new places are making good beer.
It's important. What was cool about this particular place was that I had the American Brown Ale, and my wife had the Saison, and I tried her Saison. But it's gotten to the point where I don't want to drink anybody's IPA right in front of them because I don't want to have that conversation. You know, I'll drink something that I'm comfortable tasting, and they're like, and it's a conceit among brewers. It's nobody's fault, but everybody's like, we do IPAs, and I'm like, I know you do because you have a brewery. and I didn't want to try it and not like it right in front of them, or I didn't want to not know what to say about it. And they do a Belgian IPA.
Okay.
Oh,
I've heard of Belgian IPAs. I don't know if I've ever recently had one.
They do an American one and a Belgian one and a regular one, I guess. They had the American IPA on, if I remember correctly. But I was headed to New Jersey, and that's a long way to drive when you've had a bunch of beers. So I had to choose one beer to have. And I chose the American Brown Ale, and I don't know if they have names. I don't think they have like kooky names. They're just, this is what's in this
generic,
tank.
Just generic.
Beer named beers. Yeah. The thing about the American Brown Ale that I would like to let you know about is, and it happens every time I have one, I just don't let those sit long enough. I drink it and I'm like, and then I let it sit and it warms up and I'm like, oh, there's the flavor. Yeah. So that's one of those, order two, have that second, and just let that sit there.
Non-frosted glass.
And that's for non-frosted glass, and let that warm up because when that beer warmed up, it was so good. And right fresh out of the tap, it was okay. I mean, I knew it was a brown tasting beer, but the flavor
doesn't have to be that warm. It just gets up into upper 40s.
Maybe 5 minutes. I don't even think it was 5 minutes, but you know me, I'm not gonna wait 5 minutes. Beer sitting in front of me. That's absurd. And the Saison, they were I think rightfully proud of their Saison, which was plenty spicy and had a little bit of extra lemon in it, which I like. I've had that in them before. Like sometimes it's all coriander and sometimes it's a lot of lemon. This was a lot of coriander and enough lemon that you're like, oh, lemon or orange or citrus, whatever that citrus flavor is that comes through in them. So it was I highly recommend it. But what was interesting about these guys is they are in a very tiny place. Very, very tiny. There's a picture here. You can see it on the website. That's the ceiling.
Right.
You know, that's not the bottom deck, and there's not a top deck above it. That is the brewery ceiling.
And you've got most equipment. That's probably most of the room.
That is it. Yeah. All right. So there's no room behind the tanks, and there's a walkway in front of the tanks. And there are, I think, 5 tanks in that room, and then 4 tanks behind the bar. They used all of the room for tanks. They have a restaurant and they have like an outdoor place. And so I was talking to him about, expanding, and I'm not really telling tales out of school, but what was interesting when I was talking to the brewer, we were talking about this notion of brew pubs, which we talk about a lot. I love the idea of brew pubs. I like the idea of you make the beer and you serve it right there.
It's not for distribution. It doesn't travel.
Absolutely, and that's what we were talking about.
Made on premise, served on premise.
And I was saying to him, I'm like, well, what are you going to do? Like, are you going to distribute next summer? And he's like, we'd like to distribute a little bit to our neighbors, a little bit up the street, a little bit down the street. And so that's something that they'd like to do. But he was talking about, he wasn't saying they were going to do this. He was just admiring the idea behind Iron Hill, where they're like, why would we instead of making one big brewery and sending the beers out, they make a brewery, and then they make another brewery someplace else, and they brew the same beers. And I think that,
that's truly a brew pub.
Yeah, it's a brew pub, and that's what they do. And I don't know if you can do they distribute it all?
Did they Not that I know of.
Maybe in kegs. I've never seen a bottle or a can. So this whole idea, and the margins are real good, and especially if you can do food well.
Yeah.
And when I was talking to the other owner, his name is Brandon Smith. There are 4 guys who own this. And Brandon Smith was saying, we're not going to do, and it's something, again, that we talk about a lot. So I feel proud when I hear it back. I don't know, like I've tapped into the universe somehow. But this idea of they have like 2 really interesting beers and 4, you're going to like them, beers.
Okay.
And I like that idea. I like.
So you got 6 choices.
Yeah, and I want to be able to go into any place and have something really, really kooky. But if brew pubs are going to be a thing that happens, it's not going to happen with the, Chipotle Berliner Weiss, like they have at Third Wave. It's going to happen with, here's a solid IPA,
but
brown,
got
red.
To pair it to things that are going to be drinkable with different foods. So you can't have something that's too outrageous and expect your customer base, if it's going to be mostly food customers,
to be able to
drink with their meal.
And so this used to be. It looks like it may have been a house at one point, and this was like a garage of some sort. Okay, it's got a roll-up door, and they leave it open when they're brewing. And I swear to God, I think people come by, look in, they're like, "Oh, they make this beer here," and then they walk around the corner and order one. It happens. I was there for maybe an hour, maybe 2. But it happened several times. People would come, they would poke in, they'd be like, "Oh," they'd say something to the brewers, and then they'd walk around and they'd go in the front and
that's great.
Get a pint. Yeah. So it's good advertisement as well. But the idea of this whole idea of having these beach towns staying open all year to accommodate the brewery, and now we saw it happen in Rehoboth, clearly, right, with Dogfish Head, and now these guys are doing it, and they're also doing it in Ocean City, because if you're going to have a brewery, you have to operate all year. You can't just operate 9 months. And so what these guys have discovered, and I think that Sam's was kind of head of the pack. Yeah. This is how you do it. If you're going to be in a place, you may as well be selling. There's no point to close down and make beer that nobody can buy. And if you're going to be making beer and you're in a summer town where all the other restaurants close, then you stay open and you do well in your restaurant, because you've got great beer, you've got great food. Even if you have okay food, I mean, let's be honest, it's hard to screw up a French fry. Like I'll get a basket of fries. You throw anything in a fryer, you're going to sell it to people, right? The fish and chips. I mean, fish and chips. I've had bad fish and chips, but I've never had inedible fish and chips, right? So make some fish and chips, have some beer, and it's just a great way. And so now there's one in Dewey, there's one in Rehoboth, there may be 2 in Rehoboth. We'll talk about that in a second. There are 2 in Rehoboth. We'll talk about that in a second. And then there's one in and 2 in Ocean City, 3 in Ocean City now. 3 restaurants in Ocean City that make beer. Backshore Brewing, Assawoman, and an Ocean City Brewing Company. These guys are actually very friendly with Jason over at Assawoman. They go over there a lot.
Oh, good.
They work with him, and he's been helping them get through their times. And he's a good guy. So
it's always nice to have somebody to bounce things off, ideas and problems.
Yeah, and then actually he just came back with a box of hops that that he had to borrow. Which is something that I'll never get tired of talking about when it comes to these. Everybody's sharing all of this stuff. So that was the exciting thing. And you were saying earlier that there is a restaurant and brewery opening in Rehoboth that went completely under my radar.
That's on Route 1, Finn's Ale House, and they've got the brewery, as far as I know, is open now, and was the Big Oyster Brewery. And as far as I know, they're open. The brewer was in here a couple weeks ago and said that he's brewing. So,
and now is he a guy that worked here or just a guy that brewed here?
He came from somewhere up in Pennsylvania, I understood. So,
I'm sorry.
I think he's from. Iron Hill.
Oh.
He was brewing at Iron Hill, and then he started doing mostly paperwork. They needed somebody to do all paperwork, so he wanted to get back into brewing. So I think that, and I can't remember what his name is, but he decided to come here because he could get back into brewing and not doing the paperwork.
Well, that's what the guy at Rubber Soul, same thing. He had been a brewer, and then he moved on to something else over at Dogfish
Administrative stuff.
And
somebody's got to do it though.
So somebody's got to do, and that's what you know. It's hard to. Oh, he was like a sales liaison, like the salespeople. He would tell the salespeople how much they could sell, and then they would sell more than that, and then he would have to find, well, I need another 4 tons of oranges now, or whatever. I was in there. I finally got my first taste of Rubber Soul. I don't know if you've been to Rubber Soul.
No, I have not.
I did. It was fine. I was caught by surprise because they don't have glasses, so I didn't have a pint. I had a tasters, and they were
they're
out
just doing tasters now, but they can do pints, right?
They can do pints. They just have them in plastic glasses, and I can't have it in plastic glasses. Yeah. Lots of other people can. Lots of other people do. There are plenty of people at the bar buying his beer, but I went in there, and the beer that I wanted to try, they were out. That's the other thing that they told me at Dewey Beach, and they have told me at every brewery I've ever covered, and I've covered, I think, every brewery or nearly every brewery that's opened in the last 6 years or whatever. That they're running out of beer. They can't keep it.
It's great.
It is absolutely fantastic. Every time you're like, they're another brewery, and then they opened in April. By August, they're like, we can barely keep up with demand, and they're just selling up. And they don't even distribute at all. Right. They're just behind their
sales.
Bar and working, 90-hour weeks or whatever. They cannot keep the beer. They cannot keep beer on tap. I mean, they have 6, so I think they have 4 on tap all the time. So same thing with Rubber Soul. The beer that I really wanted to try, they have a blonde that he seemed very proud of when I talked to him about it. And so I was looking to try that, and it was gone. and that's the other thing. When you go to a new brewery and they have 8 beers and 5 of them are gone, you're like, I wonder which are the best 5 beers these guys made.
It just means you have to come back again, try more.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I think my idea is the next time I'm going to go buy, I'm going to get a taster, and then I'm going to buy a can, because they have those. They sell the 32-ounce cans.
Oh, okay.
And I want to do a story on that, because they don't just sell the 32-ounce cans; they make it in front of you. So they don't have like a production thing.
Oh, okay.
They fill the can up, put it on the can maker, put the top on it. And hand it to you.
Okay.
I didn't get to see it. I didn't have an appointment, and I was just kind of there with my wife, so I didn't want to make a big deal. And
it's a different way to do it.
Yeah. The owner wasn't behind the bar, so it wasn't like I had to excuse why I was just going to have one beer and leave. I'm like, okay, good. I'm here incognito. No one knows. Nobody cares. And I'll make an appointment, and I'll go back, and I'll have a proper taster, and then I'll get a can.
Get a can.
And we'll bring the can.
That's like the ones Foster's, the large.
Yeah, the 30. It's a 32-ounce can. So I'll bring that for one afternoon when I don't have to go back to work.
Always like an oil can beer.
Well, that's what I was talking to him about. That was it. Him? I don't remember. But the other thing I try to do is every time I talk to somebody about canning, I always say somebody's got to bring back the.
And I think that's I'm dating myself talking oil cans. You don't see oil in cans anymore. They're always
I guess they're in plastic bottles.
Yeah.
That's great. I didn't even recognize that.
Foster's used to be more like you still get the big Foster's. I'm not sure how many ounces they are, but it always reminded me of what the oil cans used to look like.
Well, that's what they refer to them as. The beer, they refer to them as the oil can.
Right.
And that's what I'd like to see. I think it was him I was telling, the pop top, where you need a can opener.
So these don't have pop tops? So you need actual.
No. I told him that's what he should do. I don't think he did.
But these are same top and bottom, and you have to use an opener then.
Oh, no. These guys, they have
pop tops. Okay.
But I was just telling him he should get those, because that would be cool, Because I would pay, I think it's like $10 for the can. I'd pay,
but
$12
they can
to get
reuse
it.
the can then?
That I don't know. I don't think he can, but I don't know. I'm going all this and more on an upcoming episode.
You'll find out more about it.
Yeah, because
I gotta go.
Yeah, I'm dying to go. And next weekend I'm going to be going to Tall Tales, because they do a Brew Friday where they do a brew outside.
Right.
And so I'm going to go, and I'm going to look at the new place, and I'm going to write about that. and I'm going to hang out for their.
Got a very
brewing
nice
thing.
outdoor patio.
Beautiful out there. Have you been since they did the construction?
No, not since they put the new. I saw the building going up a couple months ago. I haven't been there since they've got it done.
So I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see what that looks like. I think it's going to be fun to see. And Jimmy and Eric, they're always great. I spoke with someone recently who was just raving about their Excalibur IPA. I don't remember who it was.
It's gotten much better.
Yeah. and I think that was Eric's deal. Was that his? One of them said, give it another 2 batches. And this was 2 years ago. So, but I remember somebody saying, "Oh, yeah,
improved greatly since Jimmy and Eric have taken over there."
Yeah. My favorite is still not going to be that I can't. I'm not a huge fan of the redheaded stepchild. It's not my favorite beer, but lots of people, also rave about that one. We ran a little bit long already. Well, we've got a little bit of time left to go over the news. So we will go over the news briefly. Want to talk about the Wheaties?
Sure.
Just for a second. So
have your Wheaties.
Why
and your beer too?
Why did it take this long? No one knows. But Wheaties partnered with a Minneapolis, Minnesota brewery to start putting out wheat beer, and of course they did. I mean, again, and it's not available out here.
You got wheat cereal, so might as well have wheat beer.
You're buying all this wheat, right? Jeez, and I mean, I don't know if Wheaties still has wheat in them. I don't know if people eat Wheaties at all anymore. I've never been much of a cereal guy myself. Okay. I would have grape nuts occasionally, but grape nuts are one of those things where they're like oatmeal, like you need a nap. Yeah. If you have more than a handful, you're going to need a nap. So, anyway, so looking forward to trying that. And
you say it's not going to be distributed here, or it is not distributed yet? It's
not distributed here yet. What they're doing is this is a test run. Like, how can we do? It's ad week, so we have to answer all the questions to get through. But they're doing the tall boys, so that's 22 ounces, right? And it's interesting, like everybody's. General Mills is not an artisan company, I guess is the way to put it. So this is an interesting partnership between a small brewery
and a large
and a global conglomerate,
right.
And it's interesting to see, and you wonder if General Mills is going to get into the beer business. If they're not already, I don't know. Are they craft or are they different from craft?
I think General Mills is
they're on their own.
Yeah.
So anyway,
but another conglomerate like Kraft,
right? A big company. So anyway, so they're going to run this, and you can buy a 4-pack of 16-ounce tall boys, and you can't buy it outside of Minnesota for now. If it does well enough, and if they can get their hands on Wheaties, then they will make more of it. But the can is cool looking. Yeah. It's orange, and it says Heffa Wheaties, and right? Why not? I would totally drink that beer. I would make root beer shandy out of it just to get both of those things together. And the other story that I wanted to talk about briefly was this an interactive map. They put together an interactive map on the NewYorker.com of breweries, and this is using numbers through the end of 2012. I guess it took that long to write the program, or those are the best numbers they could get.
Well, that's the statistics they have at the time.
Right, or it's just an old link that I just found, but not likely, because I'm usually pretty good. I don't know.
It doesn't say when they put it out.
Well, yeah,
it's based on 2012 data. So.
2012 data, newly released 2012 data. But if you get a chance to go, you can play with. I like the interactive maps where you click on something. And one of the things that we were talking about as we were looking at it, and pardon me for looking away, is so here's Dogfish Head, which is one of the largest breweries what is this? This is one of the 50 largest breweries in the country, and this is back when it was number 13. This is
that's current then.
Those are the recent numbers. Yeah. I guess those are the best numbers they have, 2012 numbers. So they did 172,000 100,000 barrels in 2012. And I think the state did 180,000. We were looking at it before. Annual production. So we were looking at, so Dogfish did 172 and Delaware did 181. So essentially, and the other thing that was kind of cool looking at Delaware specifically, and you should look at it for your state, because Delaware is ranked number 44 for number of breweries, but
16th for
number of breweries per capita.
Yeah, per 500,000 people.
Right, and so
we got 500. So we got basically 1 million people in the state.
Yeah, and you can, and for every. And so that's 16th. It's the 16th most densely beered place, if you want to put it that way. Maryland, which counts Baltimore clearly, has a brewery for every 2.5 people.
Yeah.
2.5 breweries rather for every 500,000 people.
And they're ranked 35th.
And they're 35th. And that makes sense, but not for me because they're all by my house. So yeah. Because in Maryland, even as of 2012, we had 4, I think, on the Eastern Shore. And now I think we have Burley and Tall Tales and Ocean City and Assawoman and Backshore and Chrisfield and Evo.
And there's one St. Michael's.
And St. Michael's. That's 8.
Yeah.
That's 8 of the 30 are within 45 minutes of my house. So I do okay, thank you.
And I heard that the Lazy Lizard had moved there.
Oh, they're now in Snow Hill, so that would be 9. I'm going to live and die and never have a Lazy Lizard beer. The Lazy Lizard can go to hell. They threw me out. It's not, and they didn't throw me out for drinking. They threw me out for trying to take a picture for my book. Eastern Shore beer available now on Amazon.com. And so that'll bring us up nicely to the half-hour mark, or just around the half-hour mark. If you go to our Spotify page, our Storify page rather, there's another really interesting story about it's a blog that I came across by a Spanish guy saying he wants craft breweries to try harder to sell to Spanish people. His main complaint is that he lives in an affluent neighborhood now, and when he goes back to his old stomping grounds, he's from Newark, New Jersey, and when he goes back to Newark, there are no. He said you can't get craft beer in my neighborhood, in the neighborhood he grew up in, and so he would like to change that. And I would like to see more Spanish people brewing. So
yeah, but I would think if they don't have it, you ask for it. As long as they got shelf space, maybe.
Yeah. Well, what he's saying
works both ways. So
well, he's saying that he'd like to see the no one like. He said when he goes to his liquor store, there's always a tasting, and there's always someone saying, you should drink this beer. This is why you should pay $12 a 6-pack. Yeah. And he said, and he said he doesn't expect it from little breweries, but he said people like, he called out like, not called out like her, but like Boston Beer or Magic Hat could certainly afford to send someone into one of these, especially like, that they have a presence in Newark. So they're already distributing a bunch of beer there. They could have somebody go over, spend a day giving out tasters of Samuel Adams and saying, this beer,
you should drink this beer.
You should drink this beer because it is this much better than I see right there that you have Grupo Modelo beer. I drink Modelo, frankly, but so let's make Corona, right? So I see you have Corona. Want to chase this, you will not believe how much better this is than Corona. And then I can tell you why, because when you have these beers by yourself and you don't know, you're like, it just tastes funny. But when someone says, this is what it's supposed to taste like, and this is why it tastes this way, you get...
Educate the drinker.
Absolutely. Yeah. So he would like to see them doing more drinker education. I'm for that. I'd also like to see more Spanish breweries. I mean, there people of Latino descent are making up a large and an increasingly large part of the population. So we should get some of them brewing. Just to put their own spin on it. And I mean, everybody's got their own cultural background that they bring to when they're brewing. I mean, what's his name? Like John, he brings Vikingness to his. Yeah. He's like, I was a Viking 1,000 years ago, so I'm gonna make mead. And it's just, putting your own spin on it, making beer for your friends is how all of these started. So, getting the Latino community into brewing means that eventually one of these Latino entrepreneurs is going to make a beer that is for their people, their friends, many of
their own
whom
brewery, hopefully,
and then their own brewery, and that's Newark has a huge brewery, but it's Budweiser, so they could have a smaller one right downtown, or Elizabeth, any of those places. I mean, here we have a large Latin population in Selbyville, Bishopville.
Yeah,
Someplace
this area.
This area we have it's big agriculture, so we do. So I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, if anybody knows anything about that, feel free to chime in. Take a look at the story. It's well written. It's interesting, and and it's not. It's just well thought out. This is a market that is huge and worth pursuing. So that'll do us for this week. Classes?
Nothing scheduled at this point. We'll start sometime in September, but we'll have class schedule out here toward the end of August.
Very cool. And speaking of classes in September, on September 19th, there's something at Trap Pond. Are you guys involved in that at all?
Trap Pond Partners is sponsoring a craft brew event. So, yes, we are involved, and we'll be set up there.
Very well. And that's it. We will talk to you next week.
Hey.
There you go. Bye.